Chris, I can't believe that we have been able to get 3 good episodes out of Decoded, and now working on our 4th. Can you believe that?
It's I think so. I do believe. I get the vibe though, because I think what I'm when we sort of first started, texting about this possibility, it was the kind of the context that we were coming at. It was just kind of looking for something fresh. We wanted to turn a corner, do something a little bit different. Maybe test drive some different bits of, I don't know, like conversation shops. I think what I'm kind of blown away by is that I'm constantly thinking out, like, this is totally something that I want to chat out a little bit. Like it's given me so many moments during the week where I'm thinking to myself, I'm really kind of I'm in autopilot here. I do this. Why am I doing this thing? And maybe that's the counterspin to having put in the time. I mean, you used to call it the grind of listening to other people's stories, which, don't get me wrong, I love hearing the stories, because I feel like I'm reaching out into spaces that I'll never actually get to. And you said it so well. It's not like you can hang out and go drive to another teacher's house in like SoCal or Australia. So the only way we're going to get that context is to kind of do that grind to talk to them online. But I find that when I have those convos, for sure, and I never have enough time to think myself, kind of like what I'm thinking about my own context. And I feel like that's what we're kind of getting to with this one. Like, I actually, during the week, I think to myself, you know what, I need to talk this one out with Rolland, because I need to know if this is singular in the experience, or if this is actually common, because it's easy to get swept up in thinking everybody's doing this, or having whatever the feeling, the moment that you're going through.
What you're saying is very interesting, because I feel the same. Like, as I'm going through the work and I'm with the kids, I'm doing my thing. You're right. There's like an automaticity to it, right? We're just so used to operating in a particular way, or, dare I use the word skilled at doing certain things as educators. But I'm much more aware and kind of vigilant on what I'm doing, and then thinking, well, I would like to talk to Chris about this. I would like to drop this and kind of break it down a little bit and see, you're right, if this experience is unique to me, or if it's something that's going on all over the place. It's just neat. It's this added layer of awareness that I didn't really have before, but I have now, because I know that we're going to be talking about what's going on and what's kind of popped up that we'd like to break down or make a little bit more complex. So
yeah.
Anyway, it was good times. Something interesting happened this week. I got a message from Stephen Hurley asking about my podcast, Rolland Chidiac Connects, and just kind of wondering what's going on, because nothing fresh has come from it lately. And I just explained that it was kind of on the back burner at the moment, but that you and I had combined forces to create the Decoded podcast, and kind of just briefly explained what it was. And Stephen, right? He was like, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to check that out." So that just happened recently. That's why I haven't been able to tell you about it. But I thought it was cool that Stephen thought it was a neat idea, and he was going to check it out. And who knows, maybe our podcast will end up on Voice Ed Radio, which would be kind of cool, because we're still both Canadian podcasters doing our thing. And I think what we're doing might be interesting to other people out there and educators as well. So I thought that was pretty cool this week.
A couple things I love, because you and I talked about that, how are we going to, what, I guess no better way to say it, how are we going to market this? Like, are we going to go kind of retro connect with some of the spaces that we've been in, or we just kind of do our thing? So it was interesting when you started that conversation with me this week. I had been thinking about it, and I don't know if that was part of the pattern that I had gotten used to with my own podcast. Like, got to make sure that I get that up and cleaned up, and then every once in a while you get that tweet from Voice Ed saying, Chris Clough, Jason Squirrels down another rabbit hole, or what, one of the bumpers that's been so kindly put on there. I got used to that method. I got used to sort of like, someone's going to market this for me. And I remember when you mentioned that, like, I was hesitant. It's funny, because when I thought, so are we going to take this and kind of shove the feed back to Voice Ed and get it rolling there? I got to admit, I felt a little like I was nervous to tell you. I was a little nervous to tell you, because I was actually wondering, like, is this kind of breaking our code here. Like we were just going to kind of do our thing and see if somebody notices. So I was really relieved when you're like, hey, you know, should we kind of start talking about this? I appreciate that, because I was like, how am I gonna mention this? I actually started a couple different texts saying, should I hashtag some of our connections that would have directly revealed what we were doing? So I had a couple moments like that.
It's interesting that you say that, because I know that we kind of, I don't know, I don't think we were being stealth, but I think we started something new. Let's see where it goes. Let's see if anybody picks up on it. And
we said yes. That's what it was. We said yes. Let's do this.
Yeah, we just did it, right? We just we found a time, we connected, we're talking, just like we're doing right now. And I think it just, when, I don't know about, I don't think it was a secret, because obviously we're tweeting about it, we're putting it on YouTube, so no secret. But I think it was, for me, refreshing to just be able to, like, it still feels really organic, and I hope that kind of continues, that vibe of just talking about the work that we do and how it works and how it plays out and what it means. And then when, you know, Stephen hit me up, I was like, this is a good opportunity. Just let him know this is what's going on. You might want to check it out, because you and I are part of the Voice Ed family, and I feel like there's amazing people there. And so it's funny, like, I didn't tell Stephen because I want him to push our content. Like, I told Stephen because he's the dad of Voice Ed Radio, and he was talking to me, and I was like, hey, Dad, check this out. You're right. You know what I mean?
I love that you said that, because as you're talking about, we're part of the Voice Ed and part of that initial layer of the on Ed Mentors kind of rollout. It's funny that compaction of time and how much has happened in the Voice Ed nation, feels like now, and the on Ed Mentors kind of support group. I almost feel like really old. I feel old in that sort of evolutionary scale, you know, because, you know, you look at some of the newer podcasters that have hopped in, and, you know, I think tonight there's an episode where the teacher candidates are kind of running the show, which is fantastic. But when you mentioned the family, it was funny, because you're saying, like, Stephen Hurley's like, you said dad?
Yeah, I said the dad of Voice Ed Radio.
Yeah, I might have put him a little bit higher, just so, because that only choice, I don't know if I'm the child of it. I almost feel like I'm dad or granddad, so that would make Hurley like great granddad or something. So
I don't think he'd like that, dude. I don't think he'd like that.
Well,
that's why I call him dad.
Dad. Okay, we'll keep him as dad. Papa Hurley.
Papa Hurley. But like I said, and he's such a good guy.
Absolutely.
I don't know. He's so authentic. There's no, I don't know. It just worked out, and hopefully he likes what he hears, and if he doesn't, that's fine as well, right? Like, we're doing our thing, and you and I like what's going on here, so that's cool. But that's kind of good news. I mean, and he's such a cheerleader, right, for podcasting, for Canadian content, educational content, and I think you and I are in a good place to talk about that stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like I'm kind of in a different zone in my life right now. So this is good for me to be able to talk about the work that we do amongst each other, and then push it out. And, you know, I would love for people to hear it and reach out, talk to us about it, or whatever. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Voice Ed Radio, right on. It's good stuff. You and I connecting is good. I think it's like the fact that we can do it weekly right now is working out really nice. I mean, it was awesome to get that text from you today saying, well, dude, I'm busy this weekend, so how are we going to make this work? And I was like, tonight, tomorrow, let's do it. Let's make it happen. It's only, you know what, it's been like an hour and a bit of our time each week, not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. It's really good. I appreciate it. Thanks for making it happen. And oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say it's funny because I would, you know, that I guess, you know, eventually let's talk a bit about that conference I'm going to. I got some thoughts I want to share with you, but it was funny when I presented that to you. I should have texted it differently, because I actually for a moment thought, whoa, maybe I could be there and we could sort of do it from there.
Oh yeah.
So I'll tell you in future, I mean, I have no other kind of conference stuff coming up. This was just one that popped up. I knew it's the one in Peel. I know there's one happening closer sometime in October. So it just kind of came down to the fact that I had a little extra cash. Okay, a lot of extra cash. Basically, it's not cheap to go to one of these, right? Anyways, but I'll get to that. I'll get to some of that stuff later. But suffice it to say, I thought to myself, we have the technology between us. And I'm going to say to you that if I am at a conference or something like that, you know, and it's not tripping on family time, I got no problem with going live on GHO from wherever I am. And we could try and capture it from there. In this case, we could have, you know, but I'm cool that we're going the route that we are. I just realized I could have shaped that a different way because I almost felt like in the text I was saying to you, we have to get it done early. I should have put in the offer, could have done it. Could have done it there too. Hey, I think someone might have just.
The way I read.
I was gonna say someone I think just stopped using the internet at your house. Your face got a lot more beautiful.
Somebody got cut off Netflix or YouTube or something. Here I am because my face is rarely beautiful. So thanks for saying that, man. Well, I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, that's cool. When I got your text, I was like, oh, Chris is busy this weekend, and that's gonna happen, right? Like,
for sure.
You're going to get a text from me at some point saying, dude, I've got 3 hockey times today or Saturday, and this is happening, and it's either like 10 p.m. at night or it's just not happening. So, I mean,
I can jump on that.
So it's totally cool that we can carve out some time. We can just find it. So I didn't take it. I just was like, okay, Clough has something to do. He's going to be busy during the day, and then he's probably going to want to spend time with his family at night. And so we're gonna have to figure something out.
Cool, man. It works for both of us then.
So tell me, what's anything interesting come up this week at work in terms of like what you want to express or talk about?
I think I want to throw down just quick because I did try this past week. I chased a few colleagues down the hall to ask them questions about their bag of work, and I even did a little bit of messing around with Flipgrid out there, right? And trying to get a few people to do their stories. I don't think anyone responded. That's cool. I'm probably going to keep using that because it's a real handy way if someone decides to take the dip. And, you know, we could do a screen share and I could play the video. Like, I'm just saying that's pretty cool. But it was funny to sort of hunt down some of my colleagues in the hallways and have conversations with them about their bag of work. And I will tell you, every single time we got over, well, you know, the confusion as to why is this guy talking to me about this? I could see their eyes just light up and they were, oh, let me tell you. And I think I don't know if I texted you. I might have texted you. Like
you sent me some pictures.
Yeah. Somebody's like, the big thing right now, the newest trend in teacher book carrying is airplane luggage. Like almost, I would say about 75% of the people that I looked at had the lockable luggage on wheels. One of the individuals said, yeah, this is my entry level one. I also carry around a dolly with like crates on it strapped down. Like it looks like they really are heading out for some, you know, urban adventure. And I was just, but like I said, talking to some people and I presented, because then you have to do some of the bits. You know, I do an educational podcast and you kind of get through what that means. And then I just can I take a picture of your bag of work? And then you get the look like, sure. I said, okay, here's the thing. And then you have to roll. And the joke, it's a total dad joke. It did not translate, I think, as hilariously as you and I found it. Like but they had something to say. Others saying, yeah, ever since my back, you know, my sciatica started kicking up, I went from 2 wheels to 4 wheels. I think this luggage is going to make me to retirement. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was getting life intermingled with bag of work stories. And I actually hung 2 pictures on our blog. So if 2 people said, yeah, you can see they're nice looking pieces of luggage. Yeah. I'm still a backpack guy myself.
When I see the luggage, I laugh because it's so pedestrian. Like, who brings luggage to school? Like, but obviously teachers do, right?
Yep.
And the luggage with wheels on them, I kill myself dying every time I see those. The first time I saw that, I was teaching at the first school I worked at here in Waterloo Region. And we had a literacy teacher who was like amazing, but she was also very sophisticated. So, I mean, she dressed like a professional and she carried herself like a professional. And here I was, just this stupid newbie that didn't really know anything about anything, and, you know, just going to work every day and doing my best to do the job.
Yeah.
And here we have this this sophisticated educator who like had it all. And the one day I saw her walking in and just rolling down this luggage with wheels, and I said to her, "What do you got in there?" Right? And so she cracks it open, and there's like, it was like a friggin' magical box full of, you know, literacy textbooks and tools and stuff to help teachers work with their kids on how to teach them to become literate, good readers and writers.
It's like the educational tackle box.
Kind of. So, but what's ruined it for me is now when I see people rolling it, I try to connect her personality and her persona to these people, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit because there's no other sharing. Like there was only one of her, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a downer when I see people with those things, because they never seem to meet the expectation that I have set for them based on that type of bag of work.
Yes.
But I have to say, I was laughing my tail off the other day because I was walking out of school with a handful of stuff. Again, no bag. I'm just like, that's the pile. It's coming. And I have to tell you that I brought the bag home a few days early. So I packed it in my trunk right now because it's stuff that I'm going to work on this weekend.
Yep.
But I figure, so the first step, get it in the car. The next step is get it in the house. And so I'm still good. I'm ahead of the curve, right? Because it's in the car. It's not Friday yet, so I'm good.
I love it.
But just tomorrow it has to get in the house, and I have to work on it this weekend, the bag of work. Now, I did not venture out. I did not go talk to any of my colleagues. I just, to be honest with you, I got to work and I fell into that hole. Like I'm deep, I'm doing my thing, and I'm finding it really difficult not to find the time, but to give time to walking up and down the halls. Like, and you know, like I'm popping stuff on Twitter. My kids' work. Peter Cameron and I are doing this thing back and forth with a book we're reading to our kids. So my kids are like, they're collaborating with a group in Thunder Bay. And so we've been doing the Twitter thing, but I can do that from anywhere because I have a mobile device and it's on my desktop computer in the room. So I don't have to go anywhere. And I just find like everything I need is in my room. My lunch is in my room. The bathroom is literally 20 steps away. I have a sink, so I don't need to go anywhere to clean my hands or get a drink. I call parents from the desktop computer. Like I don't need to go anywhere. So I've just not given it the time, but I'm sure I will find some interesting things. And I'm going to say right now, in this episode, that I will before we talk again, I will go down and I will visit some people and I will try to find their bag of work, because I think it's worth revisiting. And more important is I want to tell you their reaction to me when I asked to see their bag of work, because it's almost like a personal thing. Like when you said people were looking at you funny, it's almost like a personal thing. Like, why do you want to look at my bag of work? What do you want?
Yeah. I think part of it too, it falls in that category of, hey, did you get a new haircut? And you say that to someone and they have to decide whether or not you're sort of throwing down why would they notice this? And it's in that same, and you know me, I'm genuine. I just notice these little changes in people. So I've learned to follow that question up. Man, it looks awesome. I've learned because it's that, I don't know. I was talking to somebody about the 2 seconds in podcasting. And I've come to learn that even in natural speech patterns, and especially like where you and I can see each other, 2 seconds isn't bad because we've got the tone and shape of like relation. We're connecting right here. So you kind of go, okay, I get it. 2 seconds isn't too bad. But when you're listening back on just pure audio, you hit the 2 second mark. And even if you know that person's like just processing, you're like, oh, do I trim that? Do I just nudge it in a little bit? So when I say that, mention that thing, hey, did you get a haircut? It's that 2 second rule in podcasting. I throw in within a second and a half, looks awesome, man. Or You know, I remember when I could get great haircuts too. You know, I don't do that anymore. I make sure I throw in that thing on the other side just so the person doesn't feel like I'm noticing for the wrong reasons. Because that's what was happening with the bags. I'm like, wow, that's a big bag of work you got there. Like, what's the lead? I didn't know what the lead would be. And then when I'd follow up and say, hey, can I take a picture of it?
That's personal stuff. That's personal stuff.
Yeah, there was a couple of inhalations like, okay. And then you got to explain, right? So,
I have to say, I never comment on anybody's hair at work, ever.
Oh, no?
No, it's just something I learned early on that you just don't do that because, or at least I just don't do that because I found that when I was doing it, you know, people are like, no, I didn't get it cut. Well, how does it look different? How does it look different today than it did yesterday? And I'm like, oh, geez, I'm not going there. So I just don't say a word.
How about this one? Yeah, 3 weeks ago. And you're like, oh, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. You were starting to say stuff happened this week. You asked me what happened this week. You go first. You go first. I'll jump in afterwards. So what was some stuff that was cracking off this week for you?
Cracking off this week. Still getting to know my kids. They're still getting to know me. I'm seeing some interesting negative behaviors from certain people. And because I'm aware of, like, I'm kind of taking note of what's happening often, I've been thinking, okay, what's going on here? Like, what's happening here with this child? Why now? What's happening now? What have I done? What has somebody done to cause this student to go off the rails, for lack of better words? Okay, so we've had some of those moments, and every time those things happen this week, I've been able to step out of my teacher role. And you know how we were talking about teachers are more than teachers, and I think I expressed in the last time we spoke that it was difficult for me to shift, to switch back and forth from to parent, to teacher, to friend. And I found that this week, having spoken to you about the switching last week, I found it was a lot easier to switch. I felt like almost our conversation provided me with some kind of permission to ease up on myself and switch. So it was neat because I found myself in situations, analyzing them in a different way and just switching right to compassion automatically and dealing with whatever was coming my way, not really worrying about the curriculum that was going to be coming up next. So, for example, today we had a situation, and today was fresh, and we're talking now, so it's just fresh. I had a student who has an area in the hallway where they get dressed and undressed from their outdoor gear. And somebody kept putting their stuff on this individual's chair. And finally, the student just picked everything up off the chair and literally tossed it, like tossed it down the hall in a way that I was like, whoa, I didn't know you could throw that far, kind of thing. And then, so I come over and I just said, hey, listen, like, I can tell you're really upset. And it's not just throwing things down the hall, it's the look on your face, the fact that you're not breathing normally, like everything about you right now is not good. And I said, I want you to breathe. And the student looked at me, and I think I caught them off guard, because when was the last time somebody said to somebody having a meltdown, I need you to breathe. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So I did that. And the student started doing that. I waited about 15, 20 seconds. And I said, you're breathing now. And they said, yes, I'm breathing. I was breathing before. I said, yeah, but think about this now. Like, you're intentionally taking in air and letting it out. I said, you're starting to look a little bit calmer. I said, it's really dangerous throwing things down the hall. You could have hurt somebody, and I know you don't want to hurt anybody. And I said something like, you're a good person. So obviously something's happened to really cause you to, like, just go off. And the student's still kind of looking at me funny. Like, I'm supposed to be giving them trouble for what they just did. And I'm thinking, no, I'm just trying to figure out what's up. Maybe we can work through it. It won't happen again the same way, because we've got a student beside you who is kind of frightened, wasn't expecting this. So let's kind of work this through. So again, I'm totally aware, and I'm thinking, I've kind of put aside what we need to do next. I just put it aside because right now this is what this student needs. And if I feel if I give them all of it, it'll benefit later. And I've got 2 educational assistants in the room. So I think the kids were having snack or something, but everything was under control. Everything was rolling along. It's not like we were in the middle of a math provocation and this happened. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much time with this, but finally the student is rational again, not emotional. And I said, what's going on? Student says, this is my chair. It's here so that I can do what I need to do. And this particular person keeps putting things on it, and I can't do what I need to do because that person's stuff is there. I said, fair enough. I said, let's talk to the person. So I bring over the other student, and I say, did you know that by putting your things on this chair that this student was becoming very upset and anxious? The student said, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I had a ton of stuff in my hands, and I saw the chair. I put them on the chair, and next thing you know, everything's gone. And so the student who had a hard time said to the other student, I'm really sorry I did that to your stuff, but this happens to me sometimes. And all of a sudden, I'm taking a step back, and these 2 kids, a grade 4 student, grade 5 student, are talking about this. They're not yelling at each other. Nobody's crying. They're now both in a logical state, and they're discussing what happened, apologizing. One's apologizing, one's saying, well, how can I help you next time? And it's established that we just don't put things on this chair because this is going to cause this student a lot of grief. And it's still new to all of us, and we're still new in the school year. So we don't know each other yet. We can't start assuming flexibility because we don't really know how we work yet. We don't know how we operate. So then we just went back to business. And for me, it was a huge moment, obviously big enough to talk to you about, because I was able to work my switches a lot better. I was able to be much more aware of what was happening, and my role at the time was not an instructor. My role was to be a compassionate, supportive person and a problem solver, because there are 2 people that were part of this, and it was a big enough problem. Like, things are getting tossed, and when that's happening, it's just not safe, and I need to step in as the adult, the responsible adult. So this heightened awareness based on our conversations, particularly with respect to my role with these kids as a teacher and everything else that goes with it, I think I just felt like I had permission to step out of the instructor role and be a human. And when I say that, it sounds weird because I'm constantly going between all these different roles, but there's a heightened awareness, so much so that it's just really, it's like it's raw, it's there, I can feel it. And I liked it. I liked it because I tell my kids all the time, I believe that there's a time and a place for everything. And at that time and in that place, they didn't need Mr. C, the teacher. They needed Mr. C, the individual who's going to listen, who is going to support, provide suggestions, resolve conflict in a pro-social way so we could learn something from it and move on. So thanks for listening, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think, when it's really cool when you can get a little bit of that aha moment from conversations, and the echo kind of follows you, the good echo that follows you through the week. I mean, I think that really is the power of reflective practice. And I think it's amplified when you dare to go through reflective practice, maybe not so much in such a public forum as what you and I are doing now, but that concept of using your reflective practice as part of a conversation with somebody else, because to have the words exist outside your head, it gives it different flavor, different weight to it, right? Plus there's the shared experience. So you and I pursuing a topic, trying to understand a little bit better, we're constantly cross-pollinating ideas, and it sticks because we wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't of interest. And when you share something of interest, it's like you're throwing out bait to catch something. So that's cool. I totally get that. It's funny because if you went deeper, if you found new space in your teacher self, I think this past week for me was about finding more space in my parent self. And I think I tweeted out to you, when I tweeted out to you midweek about that sort of wrestling match sometimes of being a parent and a teacher. This past week has been a particularly challenging week for one of my kids, just certain disruptive behaviors emerging, and sort of working through those conversations and trying to find the place where I have to so wholeheartedly be a parent and just squash the whole teacher self down, like just not even go there. And it's interesting because I get, it's tough to do that, man. Like, it's hard to pack away those teacher tools. Some of them are great parenting tools. And you're experiencing that type of crossover when you're standing in the hallway with that kid that's just like, but this is my chair. I don't think it's just a single code that you're using. It might be predominantly from a different book, but you're sort of like still tapping into other ones, you know? And being a parent in this position of having to hear about some of the stuff that's happening in the classroom, and to maintain wholeheartedly my focus on my child and not code switch into listening to this in a almost a clinical fashion, as you might more easily do if you're sitting around a school table and you're kind of going through the data, or going through an IEP, or going through a behavior plan, where of course we're being wholehearted in that approach. But sometimes doing that for a child, when it's a bunch of teachers, it can very easily become a data-driven decision. So I had to pull right back from that state in order to really hear my child this week. So listen to their stories and listen to the challenges, and try and get all the pieces together, and also to start connecting with the teachers and the administrator to sort of start to put together something that's going to slowly start to improve the quality of enjoyment and the quality of the daily routine at school. So it's a big challenge, and this is long game. So you know, chapter 1 of building this part and this practice with my child. But I think the biggest correction that I needed was to, and if I'm coming off the code switch into holding on to a set of rules, it was like, I really do have to let go of the teacher side. I can't hear these things. And being aware when you are listening with teacher ears and not your parent ears. I asked my daughter this week, I said, what's it like having teachers for parents, or parents that teach? And she goes, I love hearing about school. I love hearing about all the things that, you know, you and mommy do at school. I love it. It's great. And my son, often when I ask him, he'll say, what do you do? You know, he's it's funny. He knows that both of my spouse and I go to school because we're both teachers. But I think when we say that, I think in his mind somehow he's thinking we're actually going to school. Like, I don't think he actually really gets it that we both actually teach. So it's fascinating to hear their two sides. And I thought, after I threw that your way about the challenge of being the parent teacher, I totally read it. Like, I totally have to ask my kids, like, what do you think of that? What's it like for you?
Well, my kids get a lot more attention as my wife and I have. So we have to be kind of careful about what we're talking about and how we're talking about it, particularly because my son is around the same age as the grade I teach, my oldest. So, and you know, like, for example, he's on his school's junior soccer team, and my school's junior soccer team is going to be at the same tournament, and they're going to play against each other in a game. So it's like, you have to be careful you just have to be careful. And at hockey, my son will mingle with the kids that I've taught and that I do teach. Yeah. So for them, it hits really close to home, because they're like, my dad's a teacher and he has taught that kid. And you know, sometimes the kids that are hanging out with my son, well, nobody's ever really said anything mean, but I think they might want to, and they know enough to shut that filter. Or turn it on so that they don't say anything. And I say to my kids, you know what? We're all people like living in the same community. So you're bound to hear something negative at some point. Hopefully you hear some positive too. I think they like hearing about my wife and my experience. Like they'll say, so what happened at school today? Did something really awesome happen? Did something really bad happen? And so they go fishing for it a little bit. And, or they'll tell us, they don't want to tell us what their teacher said to them today because it's teacher code talk. And Sarah and I we know the code. So we'll know exactly what the teacher meant by what they said to the kid. So, I mean, they like it. I think they think it's cool. Their parents are teachers. Their parents are helping kids make the right choices and learn some really good stuff. And they have some fun with it because they love to run into the students we teach in the community. And they know about some kids more than they know about others because of the funny stories that happen. So it's not like, yeah, Johnny did this today, he's so bad. It's more like, this happened in the gym, it was hilarious. This one kid did this, and then I burst out laughing. I jumped into the game. So they hear about the human moments, like the fun moments that happen that you remember for the rest of your life kind of thing. They like those stories. So I think they think it's cool.
What's it like? So here's a decoded moment. What does have you ever had the conversation between you and your spouse about your spouse is a teacher as well?
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to parent teacher night?
Oh,
the strategy, and it's not because neither one of you want to go, but sometimes there's just, I've heard it from a different way. I've heard it from a colleague whose spouse doesn't teach. So the spouse that doesn't teach takes care of all of the sort of school stuff. Just because what they feel somehow is that it's better for the person that isn't on the inside of the system to go and sit across from that person instead of that moment, like sitting across from your colleague. So is there ever any strategy sessions like we're both gonna go? Like I almost imagine, I have this sort of feeling of like this heavy backbeat playing, some sort of like really sort of grinding guitar when, I get to walk down the hall with my spouse. It's like we're rolling out in the school, like, here we go, two teachers, like, and we're walking in and like, it's going to be smooth sailing in business. And then you sit down in those little bitty chairs, right? Elementary style. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting in a kid's chair now and I've just been reduced to a kid again. Okay. Yes, Mrs. So-and-so, what has my child done? Right? Like you totally lose all that bravado. So what's that look like? You guys ever strategize who's going to do this one?
Usually, so the default is we both go, we both attend. That's the default. But we can't always do that because when the fact that we're both educators and our kids are in school means that there's always 3 school schedules to manage. So for example, for Meet the Teacher night, my spouse had Meet the Teacher night on the same night that my kids had it.
Yeah.
And but my son had baseball tryouts, so we couldn't go. Like I said, we can't go. The timelines are too tight. Mom's not here. Mom's going to be at work, and I am responsible for taking care of both of you, and one of you has to be somewhere. So we can't go. So we're going to have to, and that's the first time it's happened. It was a little bit disappointing because we do enjoy our school community. So it would have been amazing to go have dinner with the staff and then meet the teachers and see some of the other parents and the kids that my kids play with. So it's a family thing and we missed it and we were sad about it. But at the same time, had we gone, it would have just been me solo with both the kids. But when it comes to like parent-teacher interviews and stuff, it's the same thing. We have to juggle 3 different school schedules and you just never know. Like we still don't know who's going where. So the default is we're both going. But then if that's not going to work, we look at the schedules, we see who can go and who can't go. And I have to say that the school my kids go to has been very accommodating. Like, so because we couldn't go to Meet the Teacher night, my little one, he arranged a time for my wife and I to go see his teacher. Oh, cool. Without really telling us. So we got a note. Well, he's in grade 2, so it's not that cool, because we read this note in his agenda saying, he told us that you could come on this day on this time. I'll see you then. So my wife and I look at our schedules. We're like, yeah, we can do it. And, you know, we all end at different times. So I'm the latest to end. So I feel in a way, like I said to my wife, you know, if the teachers are like dying to leave school because they've been there an hour past when I can get there, that's not cool. Like, they should be able to go. They shouldn't be held hostage so that I can get there. So you just go and talk to them, and then you can report back or whatever. But both teachers said, yeah, we can see you on the Monday kind of thing. Come on in. We'll be here until this time. So I got out of Dodge. I got in my car and went straight to my kid's school. My wife was there. And we visited for 10 minutes with each teacher, and it was great. It was really nice of them to take the time to allow us to do that. And it was nice for our children to show us around their room, show us their work and the things they're proud of, and just to meet the teacher. So we try our best to both go. I have to tell you, I'm not comfortable with parent-teacher interviews at all. I'm not, because it's just it's awkward for me, especially when my son is in the same grade as the grade I teach, because you know, every teacher does things differently. I roll differently than my kids' teachers. And when I go into their rooms and I see the fantastic stuff on their walls and the things that they're doing, I try not to compare myself, because I'm always going to come up short. And I've been told by former teachers that taught my kids that when they sat with me, they were intimidated, because they know of kind of my reputation in the system as, you know, the tech integrator who's always kind of trying new things and not scared to connect with people and make things happen. I tell them that wow, like, thanks for the compliment. I'm just doing my best like you are. I'm trying to get kids to learn. I'm trying to do it in a way that's fun and relevant. So I find them awkward. Also, because of my past being such a poor student, I just feel like all I want them to tell me is that my children are doing okay, and that, you know, they have good senses of humor, that they're not causing too much grief to their friends or to the teacher. Because for me, man, like, the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you as a teacher, you know, somebody who's gone to graduate school and stuff, like, that's a big deal for me. That wasn't supposed to happen. So the fact that it did, I'm not focused on the grades as much as I am on the learning skills and are my kids being good people, because everybody's going to go through elementary school. Nobody's going to stay in elementary school for the rest of their life. They're all going to proceed and move on. And so for me, my perspective is I want them to go to school and be happy. And on days that they don't want to go for whatever reason, it bothers me. But it makes me a better teacher, because on days that my students walk in and say, I don't want to be here today because of this or this, makes me think, well, what can I do to make it better? There are some non-negotiables, but what can I do? Because I don't want you to spend your whole day here bothered.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at? Your spouse and yourself, and I know you're both secondary.
Yeah, so we're both secondary.
Is it easier to go sit in an elementary school and listen to what people have to say?
It's interesting, because I don't know, maybe there's something. Okay, so do you get the sense, like, all of the teachers that have ever worked with your kids, that every single one of them was aware that you were both teachers?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So,
and for good reasons and bad reasons.
I think that that's the thing that's a little bit different, because, you know, high school teachers coming into the elementary interviews, I mean, we're connected, but we're not stomping in the same circles. So we regularly encounter the teachers that, until we meet and talk, or maybe, you know, I'm sure you've read an email from a parent, and just by the way the lingo is used, you're like, yeah, this cat is in education somewhere. I don't know quite yet, but they're using language that's the code, man. They're on the inside. So it's not usually until we drop one or two ideas or acknowledgement of understanding something that might be just a little bit further down the pipeline than a parent. Like we kind of have some of the secrets, but I find it's interesting that often more consistently, they don't know until we tell them, because we're not in that zone. We don't ever use our board email addresses for communication. We each have our own sort of, personal email addresses. Mm-hmm. And there's been some really interesting moments. I've actually had some interesting moments of learning, because you sometimes get swept up in thinking, all the acronyms and all the codes and all that kind of stuff. And I've been in moments where I thought that during the interview, information was being held back because I was a parent. So not the full story was being shaped, okay, or it was sort of softer than I would have wanted. I just want, like, you got to tell it to me straight, because I can work through whatever. And that's more of my teacher brain going, just because I got tools. I know how to work through something like this. And I'm not saying in the moment where I'm conflicted whether I should be a parent or a teacher. I'm just saying I got the sense like I was being maybe spoon-fed really nice and kindly, when I just should have been, cut to the chase, right? Rip off the bandage. And then there's been other times where, they do find out that that I'm a teacher, or that we're teachers. And sometimes the conversation swings in the other direction, where it's too much. You almost like they forget that we're parents. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm at that table that I was talking about, where the conversation is swinging towards more data driven, a little bit too cool. So I've experienced both. I always find I believe it's my responsibility to represent the relationship that I want to grow in that moment. So if I feel like it's going too far, if I feel like the conversation is swinging too far from a wholehearted kind of conversation, I will stop and ask a pointed question about something that is very important to me as a parent. I'll say, I need to know this part right now. I just want to put that other part on pause right now. And I can schedule we can do email for the other stuff. I get it, but I need to talk a little bit about some other stuff first. And I've always found that it's sometimes is appreciated. I think sometimes it's a bit of a surprise, but that's just more me personally, that I'm not walking in with an agenda, but I'm human enough to know when we've spent too long on a point and we need to sort of move the conversation forward towards hope, towards change, towards just a different topic. So yeah, I've had both. I would say more times than not, when we go in for these interviews, they don't know unless we reveal. I mean, they may have read the index card, like in the information system, and said, oh, look at, like, their work addresses are board addresses. Mm-hmm. But in general, they find out when we reveal. So
yeah, we don't have that. They know we're teachers. So it's all but it's all good in terms of, like what you said. My spouse is more appreciative of the just give it to me straight approach. And I kind of like it too. I like just tell me how it is, and tell me, what are the strengths? What are the next steps? What do you think we can do at home? And then we just go from there. And I think being an educator, I understand the language that they're speaking. So if they don't want to just give it to it straight, then I listen for the edgy language, the edgy jargon, and then I start making connections to what I know. And I don't think I have, tried to say, well, have you tried this or that? The only times I think we've ever gone down that road is with respect to, like, accommodations that we're going to allow the child to demonstrate what they really know using their strengths. So, and I don't want to use the word struggle, but I think that's always a tricky area to make suggestions as a parent, because when you're an educator and you're making suggestions, it could be seen as somebody what's making a judgment call, and basically judging you on your professional practice. And so I think it's important to be straight up about, no, I'm telling you as his dad, that this might work, because I'm his dad, not his teacher. Because when I go to these things, I don't go in as teacher. I go in as dad, and I leave the teacher role aside unless somebody says to me, "Hey, I'm trying this. Can you tell me what you think?" then of course I put my teacher hat on and tell them what I think, because they're asking me for my professional advice. But as a dad, and knowing my child, you know, we've made suggestions on what we think would work best for them in terms of their learning. Sometimes it's well received, sometimes it's received, and then we just go from there. I think that as my children get older, my wife and I are less concerned about how we are portrayed in the school community. It's always nice to be valued and appreciated by your colleagues, but like I said, when I go, I'm going as dad, and you know, not everybody I meet likes me, so that's just the way it goes. And you know what? I've taught kids whose parents are teachers, and I'm certain that they didn't like certain things about my approach, but I believe that I've always listened to what they have to say, and I do what I can to make things work so that they're at ease knowing that somebody is working with their child and cares. But like I said, that's my perspective. Their perspective may be he didn't listen to me, or he didn't do what was best for the kid, and that's fair. They're parents. They're allowed to have their opinion about what's happening with their child at school. No, but at the end of the day, you and I both have supervisors, and if they're saying that, you know, we're on board, we're doing our job, and we're excelling at what we do, then that's what matters at that moment in time.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think it's important to kind of just to grab the point that it's not, you know, whether you're a parent with just, you know, the deepest care for your child to try and create positive change in the school. So you have the drive, but maybe not the information. It's just as challenging to be the teacher parent, to go in with lots of information, but not knowing how to apply it. Like it's such a complex kind of moment to sit down with, and to sit in the room and just look at the classroom and to, you know, try and measure your child's performance outside of, you know, from being away from them. And you sort of sit there and you're trying to sort of absorb the suggestions and maybe, you know, building some sort of a bridge between you. Like it's just, it can be, and you got 7 minutes, you know, yeah, or 10 minutes, whatever that frame is. I mean, it really does strike me that I wish that there was a better way to do those moments. I liked what you said before about the dinner. I'd never heard of that before. Mm-hmm. Going for sort of a community type dinner before you got that rolling. That's a pretty sweet idea to sort of make the school feel like a family before the families meet the teachers. Like that's a really cool idea.
It's awesome. Basically, the way it works is, you know, if it's like a 2-hour event, the first hour, for example, at our school, the first hour spent outside, and you can pre-order your meal, whatever. It was pizza this time. So if you order your pizza, then when you come into the back area of the school, everybody's outside. You go to the area where you get your food. So you go and you tell them your name, and they got you on a list. They give you your food, and then you eat and mingle with the staff, with other parents. And then the second hour is come on into the building. Let's go into the classrooms. Let's formally say hello. Let's look at the work that's happening. Let's just check the place out. My kid's school have an amazing principal. He's a solid person. I respect him as an administrator in the system. I respect him as the principal of my kid's school, and I can't say enough about how he treats my kids. So like my kids love him, and he appears to show us that he cares very much about our children as well. So, but that respect goes a long way. So when I sit down with him and I've talked to him about you know, perceived struggles or issues or whatever, he's always open to listening. And my spouse and I are always very respectful of his time and his opinion, because he's built that trust with us. He's built that sense of community, and we're a faith-based system. So my spouse and I both have faith in what's happening. We have hope. We believe that things are going to work out the way that they should, and that the people that are working with our kids are there with their best interests in mind. So, you know, no matter what the situation is, it always goes back to, we believe that what's happening, it's a good thing. Like people are trying to do well. The school's trying to build community. They have like at Christmas time, they'll have like a Christmas Carol sing-along movie night. And it's amazing. My kids will like do anything to go to this because they know when they get there, their friends are going to be there. The principal sings along with them. Like, it's a really great experience for the school community. And being a teacher, I understand that there are professionals taking time out of their personal lives to make this happen for my family, for my kids. And that's big. That's huge. That's all I want. I care a lot about that stuff. I don't particularly like going to all of it, but my kids do. And so I support them. And I know I've read the research about parents who are involved in their school communities. It helps their children with their learning better. It makes everything better. And so my wife and I do what we can to be involved and to kind of stay out of certain things because we are educators in the same system.
Yeah.
I don't even remember your question. I just remember, like, I can tell you I feel good talking about the school community my kids belong to and about the way we're treated as parents. And you know what? It's great when you run into another teacher who you've collaborated with. Like, my son's school has 2 or 3 teachers that I've been on committees with, that I've worked closely with over the years. And I have to tell you, these people, like, they're awesome at what they do. They're awesome at what they do. Like, I'm in awe of the things that they do. And I'm really happy that they're representing their school on certain committees that help kids move forward in today's day and age. It's refreshing.
Yeah, my original point was just around the challenge of sitting there. You know, it's just as challenging to not feel like you can't speak to whatever the challenges your kid is having. It's almost equal weight as understanding the system, but not feeling like you want to jump in too much. So that kind of like teachers are human too, and humans can be teachers kind of a thing.
And I think when you show that human side, some people pick up on it, and it helps build rapport. It helps build relationship. Yeah. And so the most comfortable conversations with parents for me as a teacher are the ones where they understand, like they see me out with my kids. They know that I'm a dad. They know that I struggle like they do with certain things. They know that when I'm at school, I'm working with their children to do the best I can to make their kids the best that they can be. And so then you have these conversations that are authentic and not offside, but like a little bit more personal than you would with other people, because you just know that you're on the same page and you're working towards the same thing. Those are the best parent relationships. And I experienced a little bit of that yesterday at Meet the Teacher Night for me. It was great to connect with my parents. It was great for them to try to build a relationship with me by telling me that they know so-and-so from the year before, and, you know, they heard about this assignment, that assignment, and whatever. Like, it was just nice for parents. They came in, they made a connection. They said, hey, we know about some of the things you do from this kid or that kid, or we followed you on Twitter last year and our kids weren't even in your class. And I'm like, that's awesome. So you kind of have a feel for the way we operate and why we use it and how we use it. And it was like, it just felt so natural. It just felt so evolved with people that you've never really met before. But they help make that connection. And on my end, I'm helping make a connection by talking about the gifts that I see in their kids, the strengths that I see in their kids. I try to find 1 or 2 funny moments that have happened in the past 3 weeks to share with the parents, because those are the things that they're going to leave with and they're going to keep in their mind. Like, I don't think they're going to remember how well their child did on their first writing task. But I think when they hear about the funny situation that happened at first recess, you know, the second week of school with their child, I think that goes a long way. I think they take that with them, and then hopefully they can attach that positive experience to me, to their child. Because let's face it, and I know your job is an interesting one, the way you operate as an educator with these students who have been expelled or suspended. You're building these experiences for them to take with them on in their life, and it's so rewarding. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it's true. we don't get, because of the type of program, and we're in constant contact with the parents. So, you know, we don't, you make me think a lot about, you know, one of the kind of flawed logic conversations I've been in the past is, you know, we don't need to have department meetings because we always see each other in the halls. And I know, you know, if you say that with any confidence, the administrator said, but those are the fleeting moments of kind of getting to small stuff. What about the sit down times where you can get to some of the bigger stuff? And we are in constant contact with our parents, but that's the fleeting moments of small stuff, good and bad, neutral, just moving information, all these different types of communication. But you make me think about the celebratory nature that might also be necessary. And we do have those in program, you know, like we'll celebrate holidays and have different foods, and we'll put up different decorations, and birthdays and that are celebrated in our program as well. That's just the stuff that we do as the reminders that not all this space is for learning. We have to have other kind of hopeful, happy moments in there. But maybe there's also there's some more work maybe we could do as far as building community. It's tricky, again, because of the nature of the program, and we don't have a specific mandate to build that type of community amongst our students, and let alone bringing all the parents in. And we don't have a parent-teacher night. So, but you give me something to think about. What would be that version? What would that look like? I know previous instructors have tried to do some sort of a parent night, and it didn't go. But maybe it's something worth revisiting. Maybe it's something I got to give some thought as to what that could look like.
It didn't go because it just didn't, people didn't come, or
they couldn't get capacity. They didn't have the rapport or the system leverage to say that this is something compelling to do. So without the relationships of the actual parents all wanting to be in the one space, they're happy with the communication on the fly. Or as it kind of happens, you have the system leverage that when a school schedules the parent-teacher night, people start signing up, right? It's that automaticity of it. It's what you do. We have someone who tried this in the past had neither of those. So they're pretty powerful tools when they're clicking for you, right? You can make some pretty cool things happen, which is what you've got going on. You've got a community dinner where people get together, and it's about community, not just sharing information about the kids. That's something that happens as a result of the connections that you folks are making together. So it's a cool model. I appreciate it. It's a very cool model. And I don't think I think it's special. I haven't heard of the meal before like that before.
You've never heard of that?
I haven't heard of the event nature of it. No.
Okay. Yeah, no, they make it into, and it's great. Like, it's great because everybody's just having a good time. Everybody's chatting and eating, and you know what, being a former chef, can I say that? Can I say former? Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever, How about being a cook? I'm a cook.
You're a cook, but being like a former professional chef.
Cook. Professional cook.
Oh, what's the difference between a cook and a chef?
Well, it's funny because, you know, on the CFQ, so the certification that I have, Certificate of Qualification, it says that I'm certified in the trade of cook. Chef chef is like a fancy professional designation. So you could never go to school and just say, I am Chef Clough, and somebody might believe you. You're more likely to have the street cred if you can also show your card that you've actually done the apprenticeship and sort of, you know, worked in restaurants for a while. You've sort of done the work, thus you get to be a chef. It's in Canada, there isn't sort of a specific, you can get a chef designation. But so, for example, you know, you hear Master Chef and all these sort of like these Uber level chef layers. That's not a specific designation that's in North America. That's a European designation. So you can be, I am certified in the trade of cook. Often people will say, so you're a chef. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like colloquially, that's what I get to be. I get to be a chef because I have my trade papers.
So what? Okay, so let me tell you what I was trying to get at there.
Yeah, get to it.
Basically, I was going to say, you know how important it is as somebody who who cooks, who is a cook, a professional cook, you know how important it is to gather around a meal. That's where people chill and hang out and build relationships and argue, and all that good stuff happens when you're sitting at the table with food. And so basically what my kids' school and other schools in our system have done is come and eat with us. Like, let's eat together, let's break bread, and let's communicate, and let's show each other our families and what we're about for the first bit. And then for the next bit, we can get back to kind of the business of the school. But before we get there, let's build some community, and let's do it by breaking bread. And I think you get that because you've created meals for people, and then you've served it to them and observed them enjoy it while they build relationship, while they have their time together. Like, it's a pretty intimate experience in a way. And for you to have created food, not created food, but like put food together for them. I mean, you obviously had some kind of passion for that and for feeding and serving people. So it's the same kind of thing. And I just thought that you could appreciate that and make the connection. Yeah,
no, I totally do. I totally do. I was just more kind of riffing off what you said. And it's also, well, because it's also funny because you get trained in to be an electrician and then you call yourself an electrician, right? You get trained in plumbing and then you call yourself a plumber.
Right.
You get trained in the certificate of cook and you call yourself a chef. So it's funny about the language. I don't know. It's certificate envy, I guess, at its best.
It all comes down to what you do, right? Like, obviously, I guess you could become a cook and not be a very good one. Is that correct?
It is true. And you still might try to get somebody to call you chef, and someone like, you're betraying the honor of the title, sir. So yeah, I had friends that's all they wanted to do was become a chef, and the way that they wanted to come at it. Now, here's the thing. I really do think that if you're an amazing cook and you're willing to sort of learn and travel and explore and kind of connect and meet cultures, then I say you really are, like, if you've never gone to school for the certificate of cook, I think you really are, like, you're banging, like you're doing exactly what you should be. Because in some ways, I think if you choose that designation of chef, you're a cook, you're a business person, and you're an artist. Like, you really do have to have, and a little bit of a traveler, and you need to do languages. Like, it's kind of like, it's like getting your master's. Like, it really is. If you want to call yourself a chef, you got to be doing more than just grilling burgers. Yet you could have that job. But I think if you are grilling burgers and you have your certificate, you are qualified to be a cook. I don't know.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you around all this. How do you feel about people calling themselves a teacher who are not OCT qualified? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think that I would challenge the language, because what does it take to be OCT qualified? So I look at it as you're OCT qualified because you've graduated from a faculty. So what's the actual, so you're given a qualification because you have, like, you don't really do anything to get your OCT qualification. I get that you are sort of upholding their code of conduct and the rules of engagement and the other elements that sort of say that you are OCT certified or qualified. But to that end, I think that it's a designation that kind of comes along with you finishing faculty. I am not saying that what they're espousing and asking, like the standards that we're expected to uphold, those are good standards. Those are very good standards. But I guess I look at it from the point of view of, you know, there's so much of our job that, like, are you talking down the path of, let's say, tutors, or can you be more specific as to what that context could be?
How about, sure. Okay, let's go with a tutor who works at, like, one of those places where kids can go to get extra help. I don't want to name any of them, but
no, I gotcha.
You know, they call themselves a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and they might have a Bachelor of Education, they might not. Or, well, here's a good one. Here's a controversial one.
Okay.
An early child educator,
Mm-hmm.
an ECE, calling themselves, like introducing themselves as teacher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I'll come at this from a different space. I often will say that myself and the counselor are
Mm-hmm.
both educators. So my colleague that I work with, I use the neutral ground of educator
Mm-hmm.
to empower what we do. And I have said that to people, and they said, but you're a teacher and she's a counselor. I said, I know. And we're in service to the kids in the exact same room. And my job, sometimes where it ends, hers starts, sometimes vice versa, and sometimes we work together. So we're the educators in the room. I guess for me, okay, I see how this could be connected. The criteria for becoming a teacher for me is a separate set of qualifications from being certified as a teacher. Everything that everything that I learned about, so everything that I use right now has come from my training to become a teacher. And a lot of that has happened around the whole certification from OCT,
Mm-hmm.
around my sort of connection with my union. So if that ECE is doing the legwork like I feel like I do in order to improve myself as an educator, I kind of have to go with, if they choose to call themselves a teacher, I have no proprietary hold on that. Because if it's only the OCT that's saying that I am the teacher, it's like, good job, you're now a teacher. I'm kind of feeling like I'm a teacher when I made it through faculty and then started taking different AQ courses. So I don't know. I think I'm okay with that. I think I don't feel like somehow that's a proprietary designation just because on a piece of paper it tells me that I'm there. I think you have to be able to prove it with sort of a deeper set of chops and skills. I guess I would argue in the same way that if you kind of skinned by in your diploma and you haven't gone deeper to either sort of fix or do some more research or kind of like get some lived experience, there's a truth in there that you wouldn't be a very good educator right away. ECE, or is it a DECE? Is that another designation? Am I getting that right?
I believe so. I think you're correct.
So I think I'm okay with them sort of declaring it, but I think I'd be looking for a ninja. In the same way, I have like high expectations. If someone, how often do you actually say out loud, declare that you're a teacher? Do you say that word much?
No, I mean, like if somebody asks me what I do, I tell them I'm a elementary school teacher, but
right.
No, I don't walk around, hey, I'm a teacher. I don't do that.
So it's kind of one of those funny things. Like I'm not often saying out loud either. Like I'll say the program that I work in, and it's just interesting to declare it out loud. Sometimes can even be a little bit kind of like strange if you are that, like with the teaching. Like I've had those moments like, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I say the words, I'm like, kind of like, what does that mean? So I kind of sort of, I don't get too bugged in this context that you're saying. I think that if I somehow found out, okay, so put it this way. If I knew they were not trained to become a teacher, I'd be looking for some ninja educator skills, whatever it might be. If you choose to sort of use that designation, whether you're trained in it or otherwise, you better have some ninja level skills. So no matter what, if I'm going to walk around bragging that I'm a teacher, I expect I better be able to deliver. If I'm going to say those words, I got to deliver. That was really ranging. You got me on that one. Good question, though. Do we even got time for you to throw down on that, or was mine enough?
No, I have a funny story about that. Back in the day, so a long time ago, when I was a kid, my parents had this friend, and my uncle called him a professor and spoke highly of him. And I was like, Okay, so I just remember I have these moments in time where my uncle would talk about his friend, the professor. Okay. And yeah, I bet you can already see where we're going with this. Anyway, long story short, as I got older, I started to ask my mom about my uncle's friend, the professor. And I don't even remember how it came up, but it was funny because my mom basically said that this guy, my uncle, and he was my uncle's best friend. So whenever my uncle was around, he'd talk about him. And so I've heard many years all the time about the professor. I met him a couple of times. And so as I got older and I learned about what a professor is and what a professor does in the context of, North American educational realm, I'm thinking that this guy teaches at the University of Ottawa, philosophy, like something wild and out there, right? So the day of reckoning comes where I just say to my mom, what does the professor do? Like, what does he teach? Nobody's ever said. It's a mystery. And in my culture, I want to call it the Arab culture, the Middle Eastern culture, but I'm probably really generalizing here. You don't ask those questions. Like if somebody says so and so is a professor, that's it. They're a professor. You don't question it.
You roll with it.
Yeah, and especially if your uncle says this is what my friend does, you don't bother your uncle about it, kind of thing. But I was pushing back, so I said to my mom, "So where does professor work? University of Ottawa, Carleton University? Like hit me with it." My mom says that the guy teaches French to government employees. So he's one of these, like, I don't know if he's a contract, I don't know what he is, but basically he would work with government employees who didn't have very good French, and he would tutor them and help them with their French. So you could imagine how this goes, right? So I burst out laughing. And no offense to anybody out there who teaches French to anybody or government employees, but to be called a professor with that role, come on, like, no. Do you know what professors have to do to become professors? Like, we're talking like a lot of academia, publishing, like all kinds of stuff. So far be it for me to be turned off by that, but I hope the professors, the real ones, would be like, whoa, hold on here, you're calling yourself this guy professor.
Yeah.
So I'm dying laughing. Like I'm just loving every minute of this. And my mom didn't think it was funny, but I said to my mom, you and dad paid a lot of money for me to go to university and learn from professors. So how would you like it if I paid $600 for an abnormal psychology course and the dude teaching me was just going to talk to me about the language of psychology? And that's it. He got nothing else for me. No research, no publications. How do you feel then? My mom's like, well, it doesn't work that way. I'm like, yeah, it does. Don't call him a professor in front of me because it's a joke. So now whenever I see my mom, I will say, how's the professor doing? What's up with the professor? And it's, oh my God, like I'm sure my spouse would say I'm a jerk, which I guess I am, but I'm enjoying it. I'm loving every minute of that because in life, you don't have a lot of those things. No. And so when you grab, it's a Seinfeld moment, to be honest with you. It's straight out of Seinfeld. Anyway, long story short, my cousin in Lebanon, who's a neurosurgeon, okay? Like we're talking like neurosurgeon, come on. He opens people's heads and fixes them. He was referring to me as a professor. And I said, no, you can't do that. And he said, why not? I said,
because I don't teach French.
I said, I'm a classroom teacher. I'm an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
I don't do what a professor does. I don't profess. I instruct, I support, I collaborate. Like I'm not a professor. Yeah. And it was funny because he's like, no, you've achieved like a great success in your life. You're a professor. We would call you professor. I said, okay, well, when you're in Canada, call me an elementary school teacher. Don't call me a professor because here, that is a whole different thing. It's a whole different ball game. And oh my God, like I can't walk around pretending I'm a professor. That's not what I do. Anyways, long story short,
is there anything lost in translation there? Is there, so in Lebanon, sure there's a different word? There's a different word, like there is a professor and teacher have different, like as far as designation of definition, or is it?
Well,
Is it the same word? Could it be the same word?
My perspective is it's a demonstration of respect for someone in a role of authority in education. I think that's what I've kind of gathered from it. That's what it is. It's just it's a respectful title, and I appreciate that. But here, it doesn't work that way. Like, I get it, but I always tell him, or I have said to him, the problem becomes when you actually meet these people face to face and like, oh, you're a professor. You drop the I'm a grade 2 teacher. They're like, oh, you're a grade 2 teacher? Like, even in my culture, they would look upon that and be like, how come you're giving this person so much esteem? He's just a grade 2 teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just don't want to be. I just tell them, this is what I'm called. If you have to label me this. And we all will understand what that means. But I mean, it's funny, and I think it's very nice that my cousin. I appreciate that, but I'm not a professor, and I don't teach French.
Fair enough. So just to throw down, because I think this is the thing I'm going to look at for the next. So this week, I mentioned I'm heading out to. This weekend, I'm heading out to an EdTech conference. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a hunter-gatherer expedition on this one. And if anyone is listening to our podcast, I'd be curious if you've ever done this. I got hooked on a tweet from, is it Ranfrance Davis?
Yeah, Refrans.
Yeah, Refrans. And she tweeted out, it's funny, you know, I'm just in that mindset thinking about this EdTech Summit conference, whole big Google thing, right? And she says, if the... I won't get the wording right, 140 characters. She said it so sweetly, but something to the effect of, have you vetted the speakers at your EdTech conference? If they've never taught, why you going? And I thought to myself, you know what? I already paid for that ticket. So I tweeted her back. I said, I already paid for my ticket, but I love the provocation. And I think I'm going to pursue that over this weekend, just having some conversations around not necessarily the products, but the depth of teaching experience. Hey, this kind of flows right out of this, right? Like, you know, have they been scooped up by the brand? Is it somebody represented? Or is it, you know, like they got the depth of experience that speaks to the moment that they're talking about? So I'll bring that back for next week. See if I can have a few combos about that.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for another good episode, Chris. Yeah,
for sure. For sure. I appreciate your support and translation of the elementary parent-teacher interviews. That was wonderful. And
I'm glad that you appreciate that.
Yeah, I do, man. And we'll talk again next week. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you. Enjoy your summit.
Absolutely. Take care.
See ya.